I'll use the energy sector just to shape my comments. It is true that I, together with Chad Holliday, Chairman of Bank of America, we lead an initiative called Sustainable Energy for All. Chad Holliday has helped us with a number of CEOs from Vestas, from Duke Energy, from Statoil, Siemens, to put together an initiative that we believe is at the core of sustainable development for the world, but also at the core in particular for Africa's push for structural change and wealth creation, access to energy. If Africa is going to deal with the jobs issue, if Africa is going to do the beneficiation that the South Africans talked about, beneficiation in the sense of adding value to their minerals, they need power, they need energy. For people to invest in manufacturing in Africa, you need energy. So what we've done basically, Chad Holliday and myself, we've defined 3 goals for the world: universal access to energy by 2030, improvement of energy efficiency, and improvement of the share, doubling of the share of renewables in the global energy mix. And yes, we were pleasantly surprised in Rio. We believe it was the most successful outcome in Rio +20 debate. We got a pledge and commitment of over $50 billion. Bank of America put out $20 billion over 10 years for investments in clean energy all over the world. European Investment Bank, $8 billion. Hillary Clinton backed it up with $2 billion to support Africa in particular, and so on and so forth. The challenge. Pledges need to be converted to real investment. The challenge. Pledges need to be converted to real kilowatt hours that people have access to, and these pledges must be converted into real scaled up investments in the power sector in Africa. My sister from South Africa just did the job. If African governments want those investments to come in, this is not charity. We're not talking about donations, feel-good projects. We're talking about investments that make private sector make real cash, real money. Africa must become a location where people know they can go, their investments are safe, and they can make money. So the whole initiative on sustainable energy for Africa, for the world, is focused particularly on Africa. Africa is the most energy poor, but as President Obasanjo said, probably our last frontier. 60% of the world's arable land, uncultivated arable land, is there. This is why people say there is land grab. I say don't describe it as land grab. Describe it as investments in agribusiness. It is the job of African leaders to protect the rights of their people, but don't throw the baby out with the bath. We saw these same investments going to Asia. By the way, my degree is in ag economics. I was teaching agribusiness at Michigan State. So you know I was in the best American agriculture schools. I got my PhD from University of Illinois. We've been dreaming of such investments in agribusiness for 3 decades. Don't throw the baby out with the bath. Africans can shape those investments and protect their people's right if we're going to feed the world. Second, energy sector. Yes, South Africa is right. If we're going to deal with the jobs issue in Africa, if we're going to deal with a population in Africa that will be 1.3 billion by 2030, 2 billion by 2050, we better look at wealth creation as well. You need an energy source. And I can tell you, we're working very closely now to get this money moving, this 50 billion commitment. We need the following, which I'm sure the investors will tell African leaders: stable, predictable public policy. Infrastructure investments and energy investments are long-term. They're not quick fixes. So investors need confidence that governments have the public policy in place, they have an energy policy, there's investment security, and those policies will stay irrespective of change of governments. So stable public policy. That's what we're going to be working on together with the World Bank, the European Commission, and others. Second, we need to develop new financial products that will de-risk investments. And so this is why, yes, Chad Holliday will be leading a group for us. I see my dear friend James sitting there, a climate investment group. They've been helping us, and Bloomberg New Energy Finance. How do we develop products that will help de-risk investments in energy, but also infrastructure? And here you need a little bit of donor cash. For example, we have the plans developed for Kenya already. Kenya is going to invest in wind, in geothermal, in renewables, but also other energy sources. But every investor that comes in wants a sovereign guarantee. Kenya cannot afford it. Can we have another instrument somewhere else either in the European Investment Bank or IFC or OPIC for that matter, that will buy down that risk. These are the innovations we need to move the process forward. Finally, this is an American audience, so when I'm based in Europe, in Austria. So I tell the Europeans why they should invest in Africa. It's not about aid. It's the point where President Obasanjo ended. We should remember that when the Arab Spring started, it started in Africa, in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt. That's Africa. If we don't change the development cooperation model and begin to talk about wealth creation and private investments, we just rely on aid, feel-good projects, the world will be unstable. This is fact. And when there's instability, our children will move north, first to Europe, but we'll head for America too. Why? Everybody is making a deal in Africa for raw materials. That is the old mercantilist 17th century plan. The new plan has to be, let's make Africans rich so they become viable markets like the Asians did. That should be the new modus operandi. It's about business models. African leaders should also look at that. It's not a receivership aid model. Come and help me. No, no, no. It's the fact that we're open for business. I end with my own country, Sierra Leone. You saw it in the news over 11 years. We had war. The war finished 8 years ago. You know what God did for us? We discovered one of the largest deposits of iron ore. We also have one of the purest deposits of titanium. But guess what? We discovered oil as well. My children, my grandchildren, want to come to New York as tourists, paying tourists with cash. That only happens if you have a viable private sector creating wealth that also will be in the interest of Americans. When there is instability, when you have failed states, Al-Qaeda moves in. We've got to stop that. Thank you very much.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.